What's going on, guys? Happy Hump Day. Welcome into today's show. And on today's episode of Mavericks Today by Chat Sports, we are talking about Naji Marshall, the other Mavericks free agent signing. I feel like we haven't given him the proper due diligence that we have with Klay Thompson, who was obviously the Mavericks' major addition this offseason. And we wanted to just break down Marshall and what he can bring to the Mavericks. I think he's going to be a really good signing. Obviously signed a 3-year, $27 million deal with the Mavericks in the first few hours of NBA free agency. All of that guaranteed, no player options, so just a straight 3-year deal for Marshall and the Mavs. And I'm very excited to start talking about him and diving into him. Before we do that, though, we broke down the entire roster on Mavericks Today a few days ago. So if you go to the channel, youtube.com/MavericksTV, and you see this thumbnail, go ahead and click on it, and you'll be in the right place, where we broke down all 14 members of the Mavericks' current roster and where they could possibly upgrade going forward as well. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button and go check out that video. And without further ado, let's start breaking down Naji Marshall. He is a 6'7", 220-pound wing out of Xavier. Shout out producer Seeps, our Xavier alum here at Chat Sports. He went undrafted in 2020, and if you remember, that was the really weird draft that happened later in the year, and they didn't start the season until January. That was the 72-game season. But he's played his entire career with the Pelicans so far. He started on a two-way deal and has worked his way up to having a $27 million contract. So Naji has done it all in the NBA with the Pelicans, and I'm very excited to see what he can do with the Mavericks. When you take a look at his career stats, the one thing that stands out to me is the three-point percentage. His rookie season in just 32 games, shot 35%, pretty good clip, and then he shot 20% in 21-22, not good at all. Up that to 30.3 in 22-23, and then last season was his by far career best at 38.7%. I really think that Marshall is going to be a very good three-point shooter for the Mavericks, and we'll take a look at what I kind of project his stats to be later, but where Naji made his $27 million is on the defensive end. Like we showed you, 6'7", 220, he can guard threes and fours at a very high level, and he can be a point-of-attack defender on the game's best players. When you think of the guys that fear you in the most in the NBA, it's all about the wings. It's about Paul George. It's about the likes of Giannis. Now, Giannis may be a little too big for anybody to defend, but those are the types of guys that Naji Marshall is going to end up defending. The bigger guys who are able to kind of do it all on the court. He's going to be your primary defender on most nights, and will he be able to guard the likes of Anthony Edwards with the Minnesota Timberwolves? He'll guard LeBron James when they play the Lakers, and I think that's why they brought him in, was to really shore up the defensive end of things, and he offers something different that Derrick Jones did. Jones was primarily guarding twos and threes because he was a little lighter and a little probably more nimble, whereas Marshall's going to guard the threes and fours, be more physical. He's more of an in-your-face defender than Derrick Jones was, and I think that Marshall's going to be a great fit for this team. He will come off the bench to at least start the year, but when he comes in and you have Marshall and Washington on the court together, I mean, those are two very, very good defensive wings there on the court at the same time, and they'll cause teams a lot of problems. I really believe that. I know that there's a lot of video game talk around lately, especially for NCAA, which comes out next week. I know me and Joey P are super excited about that. I'm wearing my Longhorn shirt. I just can't wait. So I wanted to bring up a 2K-style question here. Go ahead and grade Naji Marshall as a player. Scale it from 1 to 100. If you think he's the worst player in the NBA, go ahead and type 1. If you think he's the greatest player of all time, go ahead and type 100 down in the comments. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So when you get hit with a YouTube ad break, go on down there and get your votes in what you think Naji Marshall's overall should be. All right, now let's take a look at what the production will look like for Marshall in 2024-2025. You look at his stats from last season, as we kind of did earlier this year. 7 points a game, about 3.5 boards, 46% from the field. It's that three-point percentage that really sticks out to me once again at 38.7. And here's where I think it could improve, is the attempts as well and the three-point percentage. I think his percentage improves, and it's pretty simple. I know we talk about this all the time. When you're playing with guys like Luka and Kyrie, who will find you in the open court, Naji can just stick in the corner or above the break, and one of those guys will get him open shots basically whenever he wants. So I think that he's going to improve on the three-point shot, and thus I think his stats next season will take an improvement. Now, this obviously isn't a perfect science, so don't sue me if these stats are wrong. But here are the projections that I kind of put together for Marshall for this year. About a 2-point per game increase at 9.2. I'll keep the rebounds the same. I think his field goal and three-point percentage will increase just because I think he's going to get a lot more open looks. And let me tell you what, if he shoots 39.5% on 4 attempts a game, he will make his money back and then some. Derrick Jones last year shot about 34% from 3, and he was a little more wild than Marshall was. But if you can get that consistency from him and he proves that he can be a consistent three-point shooter in this league, just watch out, man. This Mavs team is going to be extremely dangerous. More just breaking down Marshall's game, I think he's a good fit for a couple of reasons on the offensive end. His ball handling, which we'll talk about in just a sec, is pretty underrated, and I think that if he's able to catch the ball on the wing, drive to the basket, and create space for others, he's going to be a guy that will be feared on the Mavs offense when you already have Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson. You have PJ Washington, who can do a little bit on the offensive end as well. You always have to respect the lob threats from Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. You have Maxi Kleber, who, God forbid, if he stays healthy, can knock down a 3. It's a rare occasion when he does that, but hopefully he can do it this year after he's healthy on his shoulder. I think Marshall's going to be a really good pickup for this team, man, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he averaged over 10 points per game for the first time in his career. I projected at 9.3, but I think he could average 10. But what do you guys think down in the comments? Give me an over or under. 10.0 points for Naji Marshall this year. Type O for over, type U for under. I think that's a really good line. If he gets over, I would not be surprised at all. I'll probably type my U for under, though. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And while you're doing that, shout out to our friends at Fanatics. We could not do today's show if it wasn't courtesy of our friends over there. We have this dope Luka t-shirt. All sizes are available. If you go to chatsports.com/LukaT, when you use that link, that lets Fanatics know that we sent you guys and we get a portion of the proceeds. So please go ahead right now to chatsports.com/LukaT. Very affordable, a cool little stylish shirt. You can get it for your friend, for your girlfriend, for whoever you want. Just do it with our friends at Fanatics by going to chatsports.com/LukaT today. I mentioned this a little bit previously. The underrated aspect of Marshall's game is the ability to put the ball on the floor and create for himself. When Derrick Jones in the finals, and I don't want to seem like this, I'm shitting on Derrick Jones because I absolutely love what he did for the Mavs last year, and they don't get to the finals without him. I do think, though, there were times where he was a little bit wild, and I think he thought a little bit more of himself on the offensive end than his talent was, where he would try to take the ball to the hoop and try to make some crazy acrobatic finish, and that's just not his game. I think Marshall is going to be a little bit more reserved on that end, but at the same time, I think he's more equipped to kind of make those dribble drives and kicks like Derrick Jones tried to do in the postseason last year, because he has a little bit just more pure ball handling ability at 6'7", 220, and that's something that every team is looking for. If you have the bigger guys that can handle the rock, that's going to be something that will really, really help an offense going forward. And when you look at the Mavs ball handlers, this is kind of what you have right now. It's Luka and Kyrie, obviously, as your 1 and 2. Then you have Dante Exum and Jaden Hardy. Is Naji Marshall the 5th guy? It's kind of why I think the Mavs need to go and get another point guard, whether it's Dennis Smith Jr. or Spencer Dinwiddie, just because you don't have enough pure ball handlers on the roster. Could Naji Marshall be that 5th guy? And a part as well I wanted to mention before we get on out of here. If you remember last season when the Mavs were in the postseason against the likes of OKC and Boston, where they wouldn't have Luka and Kyrie bring the ball up the court, but they would have PJ Washington bring it up. And that cost them a couple of possessions, especially in the finals. I think if you replace Naji with PJ in that role, it becomes a lot better just because Naji's just a better ball handler, and it'll open up plenty of more opportunities on the court for the Mavs. So I really love this Naji Marshall signing, man. I can't wait to see him in action wearing the number 13. Unfortunately, he won't be playing in the Summer League, obviously, as a veteran, so we'll have to wait until September to get our first look at the newest Maverick. So that'll be it for today's show, though. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any comments about Naji Marshall, please go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter, and we can just talk ball at Jeff_Coop27. I'm always talking Mavs over there. Or you can drop a comment down on the YouTube video as well, and we will see you tomorrow here on Mavericks Today.